It is time for another exciting episode of Ask Us Anything. Every Friday, we take your questions and attempt to answer them. This week, our first question comes from Karen, who asks, I like to listen to the podcast episodes while I'm on my train commute. So, a dumb question, but still one I would like to ask. What are the best films you've seen with train settings or iconic train scenes? I think that's a very good question. I don't think that's a dumb question at all.
Pretty good question.
Yes, also because I really love trains. When I'm traveling, it is one of my favorite, like my most favorite mode of transport.
Yeah, agreed. Completely.
And I think a lot of that has to do with film and how they've romanticized trains.
Yes, but also for me, I just love the idea that I just get on a thing, and even though the trip may be longer, at least I don't have to deal with turbulence or my ears popping or an uncomfortable seat that I cannot get out of, So, trains, way better.
Yeah, agreed. I have quite a lot of favorite train-related movies. The most obvious ones have train in the title. Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, and also Murder on the Orient Express, both fantastic train-related movies.
I was going to ask which version of Murder on the
I like them
Orient
both.
Express. Okay.
They're both very different and yet similar, I think. So I like them both. I like them both a lot, actually. But to go back even further, there's a 1954 movie called Brief Encounter, in which two people meet on a train and start an emotional affair. There's Before Sunrise, which has an absolutely fantastic train sequence on the way to Vienna. The Darjeeling Limited is great because it just amplifies the whole romance of trains. And then speaking of the Darjeeling Limited, you've got the movies of Satyajit Ray. Trains play a very important role in India, and so lots of Indian movies feature trains and train settings, and a lot of Satyajit Ray's movies feature trains or train sequences that often are metaphors for like freedom and escape and all of this stuff. And so, yeah, I do like a lot of movies with trains. I mean, there are other obvious ones as well, Train to Busan, but those are more action-oriented. There was a new movie, a brand new Indian movie called Kill, Bahir.
Okay.
Which is essentially John Wick on a train.
Okay.
It's pretty fucking cool. I think it just came out on digital last week or a couple of weeks ago.
I mean, the one I'm going to add is Snowpiercer.
Yes, of course.
Hitchcock's done a couple of really good ones on the train.
Strangers on a Train.
Strangers on a Train is fantastic.
Throw Mama Off the Train.
Throw Mama Off the Train. Yeah, Danny DeVito. Not really train-based, but it's got a great train sequence. Buster Keaton's The General.
Oh, yes. The General is a great movie.
That was great. I mean, that's a great sequence.
But no, there are lots of fantastic sequences on trains. I mean, even the last Mission Impossible movie, that whole final sequence when he's like running up.
That's pretty good.
The train carriage and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
Very cool.
James Bond had a couple of good train sequences, I think.
Yes, I think From Russia with Love had a great train sequence.
Craig had one good one.
Oh, is that the one where he's fighting Batista?
So he jumps off the crane onto a train and then fixes his jacket.
Oh, no, there's that as well. But also, actually, there are lots of train sequences in the Craig movies. Like in Casino Royale.
Oh, yeah.
Him and Vesper are on a train, and then that's when he fights Batista, right? Or was it in the second one? In Quantum of Solace, where he fights Batista. And then in Skyfall, there is a big train sequence, and he gets shot and is left for dead. So there's a lot of train sequences in Bond movies as well.
So the thing we're trying to say is that James Bond, like us, love trains.
Exactly. And therefore, kesimpulannya, we are like James Bond.
Anyway, next question. At Chess asks, what is your favorite Lauve song? And when you guys listen to songs, which comes first? The lyrics, the music, or the artist?
I think it's Leve.
I don't know.
I've heard her pronounce it multiple times because I've always been confused as to how she pronounces the name, and I do love her. And it's Leve, and I'm still upset I didn't get tickets to see her in KL.
Do you want to take this one? I'm not a big...
Okay, I'll take the first part.
Sure.
There are loads of Leve songs that I like from the start, like the movies, Lovesick. Yeah, there are lots of songs I like. I mean, actually, Bahir, if you try listening to it, I think you would like it because she's very jazzy.
Oh, no. Okay, here we go. Like, I like her stuff. For me, her stuff is fine. But I have trouble listening to her stuff when I've heard Diana Krall, Nora Jones.
But it's still different, though. Like, I like all of those people, too. But I find I find like her style different from Diana Krall or even Nora Jones.
No, I agree, but I think her stuff is a little too poppy for my liking.
Okay.
I like it, like if it's on the radio, I wouldn't turn it off, but it's not something I look for.
Okay.
Yeah, for me, that's that, yeah.
As for the second part of that question, I'm not a musical person in the sense that I can't play a musical instrument. I've learnt many, many musical instruments in my youth. However,
Sure.
nothing really stuck.
Right.
So when it comes to music, for me, I'm lyrics first and then music. And I always remember the lyrics over a melody, for example. It's easier for my brain to memorize the lyrics rather than the melody.
I think I'm more music first. I think melody first for me, which is why I'm not a fan of early 90s rap or even early 80s rap, because the melody is repetitive as the lyrics change, right?
Right.
So for me, there's no evolution in the song. I like new rap. Like I love Kanye West's early stuff because it's a perfect blend of rap and pop, and the melodies are interesting and exciting constantly. So I have to go music first.
At Nick Dorian asks, random question and not sure if you all have the answers, but thoughts on the viral TGV IMAX incident. Why aren't cinemas doing anything about it? And there seems to be less care about the customer experience. I found myself in a small situation where the exit door of the GSC Starling Cinema was left wide open for a good 10 minutes in the middle of the It Ends With Us premiere screening. I couldn't agree with him more.
Sure.
I think cinemas can be very lax when it comes to the customer experience. Also, I think the TGV IMAX incident, if you haven't seen it, it was hilarious and it involved a squeegee on the screen of the IMAX projector because things were blurry, and it's all on video and it's all on Instagram. I'm not sure if TGV has responded, but I also chalk that up to just very, very bad communication protocols on the part of the cinemas. Every time there is a crisis, they are far too slow to respond. And you would think that the communications teams and PR teams would have at least some sort of templated answers for these sorts of things. Also, even if you don't have a templated answer, if someone complains, the immediate response should be, especially when you fucked up, the immediate response should be, you know what, buddy, here are 4 free tickets. Come back to our cinema. We promise we'll do better. Like, it's such an easy response, and it really doesn't cost you anything.
No, it doesn't. I will probably chalk it down to just a lack of respect for the cinema going experience.
Yes.
And this is a Malaysia-wide problem, right? So the cinemas almost don't care whether or not you come in and watch a movie and whether or not you have a good time. Other cinema goers don't care about anybody else in the hall just based on the fact that people pull out their phones, some people are talking, people are just walking in 20 minutes into the movie because they wanted to skip the trailers. And I just feel like that comes down to the fact that there isn't respect given to the cinema going experience. And I don't mean an inordinate amount of respect. I don't mean kowtowing down to the experience. I'm not saying the cinema is like a church or a mosque, but it's the respect given to everybody else who's around you, I think, right? The cinema guys should respect the fact that the gentleman just paid 35 ringgit, 40 ringgit to watch a movie in IMAX. Maybe check the screen before the screening starts. Maybe do the basic stuff first before the hall is filled with people.
And you know what you should do, though? Whenever you encounter a problem, complain about it. Write them an email, post about it on social media, keep complaining about it, and make sure they listen to you. Heck, there is a number at the IMAX screen after every screening. Call that number, because IMAX takes these things very, very seriously. Even if the cinema isn't listening to you, call IMAX and lodge a complaint.
Yeah, because just a quick background on the IMAX situation. IMAX is an organization / company that manages the technology and the films that come within that technology. So anything that has the IMAX brand belongs to IMAX, the corporation, not TGV. So at the end of every IMAX film, there's an email address. Email IMAX and tell them that the screen was too dark. Email IMAX and tell them the chairs were creaky, because that chair is considered part of the IMAX experience. So all of that plays into the IMAX brand, not necessarily TGV and GSC. TGV and GSC may or may not care that someone's complaining. But IMAX in the US, or rather IMAX out of India, because they look after Southeast Asia, they will definitely give a damn.
Yeah, keep complaining. That's the only way things will ever change.
At Travesty asks, The Rings of Power. Detested by many, including Tolkien fans, but you guys are a few minority that like or loves it. Please explain why.
So, Travesty, we have a 30-minute podcast that is already out. Please download that. I don't think you want to get us started on yet another rant about why we think the people who dislike it are idiots. And yes, we do think they're idiots. So, have a listen to that podcast and all of your questions will be answered. And I think Travesty knows about the podcast, so he sent in another question, which is echoed by Ken Gatson about the Acolyte cancellation. They want us to chime in on our thoughts. Are you for it? Are you against it? How do you guys feel? Clearly, we are against it because we've really enjoyed the Acolyte. We think it was very, very good Star Wars. Yet again, I think it ties back to a very similar problem that the Rings of Power had. I think a lot of the conversation around the Acolyte was fueled by really sado white incels in America.
And around the world.
Who echoed those sentiments without an original thought of their own. But they weren't actually commenting on the quality of the show. Even if they were commenting on the quality of the show, they would throw around phrases like bad writing without actually considering what bad writing means. Now, I'm not too concerned about it, however, because the Acolyte may be cancelled, but if we know anything about the Star Wars universe, things get folded into other things and they tend to come back. The way Ahsoka and Boba Fett returned in The Mandalorian, and also different generations of Star Wars fans have different favorite things. Bahir and I are of a generation that think the prequels are absolute garbage, and we've tried rewatching them. And we still think they're absolute garbage. But there is an entire generation of fans that fucking love those 3 movies. We think they're nuts, but they do.
I will say, I've said this before and I'll say it again. The best nap I've ever had was when I tried to put on The Phantom Menace again.
Agreed.
Great sleep.
Agreed.
Great fucking sleep.
I believe we have an episode of the Goggler Podcast where we revisit a viewing of The Phantom Menace, and I think it's 90 seconds long, the podcast. I think you, Ian, and myself recorded it many years ago where we were like, yeah, nope, still feel the same way. Thanks, bye.
Huh. We were funny back then.
We were a little funnier, yes, we were.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I think I am definitely against the cancellation of the Acolyte. I am all for the Rings of Power. I want the Rings of Power to end after I die.
Just so you'll have enough of it.
You know, just so that I don't have to spend a day without a new episode of The Rings of Power.
Nice.
So if I die first, then The Rings of Power can get cancelled. I don't care after that. I think for us, just a quick one about The Rings of Power and even the Acolyte. The reason we like it is because we wanted more of a thing that we love. We love Middle Earth in all its versions. You and I have read the books several times. You and I love the TV show maybe too much. And The Acolyte's the same. The Acolyte is a Star Wars story based around a time that I know very little about. And I am not reading 24 Star Wars books.
Yes, exactly.
I am happy with the TV show. I thought the TV show was fantastic. I was looking forward to a second season.
And that goes to another point, which is not everything about Star Wars has to be for you.
Yeah.
I think Disney and Lucasfilm, who get a really bad rap, okay? Because there is so much conversation about how Star Wars has sucked since Disney took over. No. Star Wars started to suck as soon as George Lucas started tinkering with the original movies and adding things that weren't necessary. So let's be fair, people were fucking around with Star Wars for the longest time. That out of the way, I think it's important to note that you can keep making loads of Star Wars and can appeal to a wide variety of audiences. Some Star Wars may be for you. You could maybe just love Andor and nothing else. You could like the movies and none of the TV. You could only read the comic books. But I think that is the wonderful thing about having a massive universe that is so wide and varied. There is something for everyone. It's the same with The Lord of the Rings. You don't have to watch The Rings of Power. You can just watch the 3 Peter Jackson movies and be happy. Or you can read the books and completely dislike the 3 Peter Jackson movies because he took out all of the cool stuff from the books. I mean, Anything is possible, and just like what you like. But I believe the conversation around pop culture has become more weaponized than ever before. And don't believe for a second that Disney and Lucasfilm were making this decision based on a fan response. Trust me when I tell you that this was purely an economic reason. When you think about Disney Plus and all of the restructuring they were going through, I think there are other factors that led to the cancellation of the Acolyte. I don't think it's because of some jackass on Twitter.
Yeah, but also don't be that dick for dancing on the graves of someone's dreams, lah.
Oh, that too, right?
You know, I mean, just be a fucking grown up, lah. You know, you don't like it, that's fine, don't watch it. And if it gets cancelled because not enough people saw it, it's okay. You know, like, I think the other thing as well is you and I, Uma, are in our 40s, so we know what it feels like to have our shows cancelled. Studio 60 on the Sunset Strip, The Newsroom, Your Firefly, Pushing Daisies for me.
We also know what it's like to not have any Star Wars for decades.
Also know what that's like. So, you know, just because other people like it, leave it be. It's okay. You go and do your own thing, man. Just get a fucking life of your own, lah.
Take that, incels.
At Kematian System asks, Lost just started streaming on Netflix. Doesn't really fit the binge format. Should everything eventually be available on VOD?
Yes, I believe everything will be available on VOD, barring licensing issues.
Should everything eventually be available on VOD? I think the answer to that is yes. Why not? I think if they figure out, and by they I mean the studios and the rights holders, if they figure out a way to bring a thing back to streaming and have all related parties be well enough paid for it, that's fine. Like, would I want to see Northern Exposure? Oh, fucking course.
Fuck yes.
Would I want to see Ed again? Definitely. Why not? I don't think that's a problem.
And I think you're absolutely right, Kematian System, about the first part of your question. Lost really doesn't fit the binge model.
Yeah.
Also, if you are watching it for the very first time, just stop after season 4 lah. Gets a bit shit after that.
And look, honestly, okay, I just, this is me being a nerd.
Before you start being a nerd, Bahir.
Sure.
It's trending in Malaysia at like number 2, I think, Lost. It's in the top 10. So people are rewatching it for sure.
Do yourself a favor and don't binge Lost. You know, do 1 or 2 episodes a day. Don't try and get through a season. Because, look, for all you young people, Lost was at a time when good content was released on broadcast network, which meant the episodes were about 22, 24 episodes a season.
Yeah.
So you can't do that over. I mean, you can if you have nothing else to do 24 hours. I guess you could do that with no sleep.
But it would be very painful.
But also, you're not going to get it. You're going to waste it. Just do 1 or 2 episodes a night during dinner, whatever, then stop, then continue the next day. It's fine.
Also, it's important to note, the writing was not structured for the binge format as well. So you will notice as you are watching it, as you are binging it, that those episodes are structured very differently. The 3 acts are structured very differently. It's written very differently because it's written to be consumed week on week.
Yeah.
At Tapao Z asks, after seeing the new Sonic trailer, I have 2 questions. 1, is Jim Carrey the greatest comedy actor of all time? Yes. 2, does Keanu Reeves have the coolest and manliest voice in Hollywood? I will say, I don't know what the manliest voice in Hollywood sounds like, but he does sound fucking cool. Even when he's doing an interview on Colbert, Keanu is just oozing cool.
I will throw one voice up. Idris motherfucking Elba.
That is fucking manly lah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just it's.
I am totally gay for Idris Elba.
I've got shivers running down my back just thinking
about his voice. You haven't even heard it yet. You're just thinking about
his
voice.
It. I haven't even heard it.
Christ on a bike.
No, like I would agree. I think Keanu Reeves, Idris Elba have got fantastic voices. Like I love a good Morgan Freeman, but I think Idris Elba and Keanu Reeves are, I would say they're doing something different, but they're a golden voice for the new generation.
I agree. Also, there was a point when people used to just make fun of Jim Carrey because he used to pull all these funny faces and do the whole Ace Ventura thing. But you need to go back and watch his movies, man. He is one of the greatest comedy actors of all time. I was watching The Mask the other day. Holy shit. What he does with his body is amazing. And he's also incredibly funny. I was watching Liar Liar again. It still has me in stitches. And he's relentless. It is so good.
For me, it's not those. For me, it's The Truman Show.
Oh, that's a great movie.
For me, it's The Majestic,
Yes.
which is fucking fantastic. Not enough people saw. I think coming off of Jim Carrey rubber mask face guy
Yep.
to doing something like The Majestic.
Also
to
Man
doing
on the
something
Moon.
like The Truman
The
Show.
Andy Kaufman story.
Man on the Moon, fantastic.
Yeah.
And I think that really shows Carrey's range and his control.
I agree.
At Yu Leong asks, what are your top 10 Lego sets that are movie related?
Easy.
Do you need me to leave the room? You okay? with
Only
that?
10. He's asking for
Only
10.
10.
I have more.
No. I know that's the problem. I can't.
I
won't
will
even
stop
have
at
one
10
edgewise.
if it'll make you
Okay.
happy.
I'll stop you at 9 because I know I have one. Actually, no. Let me start.
Oh, okay, you start.
I'll start. Rivendell.
Right? That is on my list.
Okay.
So,
exactly. That's why I wanted to start.
Plus
Yeah.
9, Ghostbusters Firehouse, Ghostbusters Ecto 1, DeLorean, Millennium Falcon, Dune Ornithopter, Batman 89 Batcave, Jaws, Stranger Things The Upside Down, and Wall-E. Stranger Things The Upside Down is the one set I didn't buy of that 10. I regret not buying The Upside Down because it was a very, very clever set.
Yes.
I own the Millennium Falcon. I have not built it. It is still sitting in the box because I feel like I need to take a month off work and then truly just enjoy that.
No. Okay. First off, I just want to clarify to anybody else who hasn't been to Uma's house. The Millennium Falcon he's speaking of is the UCS version, the one that's got 7,000 and a bit pieces.
Something lah.
I have a suggestion for you.
Okay, carry on.
Wait a couple years and build it with your son.
I don't think having him build it at 2 is enough. I may have to wait longer, but yes.
I don't mean a couple years by 2 lah. I mean, when he has cognitive thought,
Yes.
when he listens to you, when you tell him to put it down and not throw it around.
And not eat
that
it.
kind of thing. Not eat it. So maybe the last month before he goes to year 1 of school or whatever, right?
I think
Something
that's a
like
good
that.
idea.
I think that would make you and your wife very happy.
I think it is also a great excuse I can use to buy more Lego sets to create those loving memories with my son.
So you start with the Millennium Falcon UCS, and then you go to the AT&T, and then you build out from there. Then you go from there.
I like where your head's at, man. I like where your head's at.
I'm always there for you, my friend.
At Makeshift She Sings asks, do you feel a risk that your promotional pursuits could impede the credibility of your film criticism? That is a very good question. And no, I don't believe it's a problem because actually, if you've been following Goggler for any amount of time, you will realize that we never discourage people to watch a movie. It's very rare that we do, unless it's a really shitty Malaysian movie and we feel you shouldn't give them any of your money. We hardly ever discourage people to not watch a movie. And so whatever film promotion we might do, it never involves our thought or opinion on said movie. We always talk about the film, its production, what it's about, and why you should go and watch it. That doesn't mean it's good. Because when we say why you should go and watch something, we're talking to you almost from an academic point of view, because whether it's a shit movie or a great movie, we still think it's worth watching because you learn something from it. And that's always been our point of view. If only because, as we've seen from The Rings of Power, Acolyte, It Ends With Us, there are so many opinions about these things, and some people absolutely love them, some people absolutely detest them. Everyone comes to these films with their own baggage, and so therefore, it's impossible for us to tell you that something is objectively good or objectively bad. All we can give you is our opinion, how we feel about it, and whatever that means, because, we may have seen thousands of movies and therefore it's slightly more informed an opinion, and then we wonder if you trust us or not. And if you trust us, you might take that on, but at the same time, we may like something, you may go watch it and go, Uma, but hey, you're completely wrong, and I disliked it because of this, and this reasons. So, no, I don't think it gets in the way. I think both things can exist simultaneously. And I don't believe it's the role of the film critic to tell you not to go to the cinema and watch a movie. I think it's the role of the film critic to dissect a movie and give you their opinion on why it's good or why it's bad.
That's the other thing about film criticism that a lot of people sometimes can get confused by, is we're not the gatekeepers of
Correct.
We're not the gatekeepers of taste or what is right, what is wrong.
I mean, we have fucking good taste, lah, let's be fair. But that's besides the point, lah.
That's besides the point. That's not the point. That's not what I'm trying to argue for here. But like, I think for us, we have our own favorite reviewers.
Yes.
And that is based on the fact that we feel like more often than not, we agree with their opinion.
That said, there are times when we drastically disagree with what they say as well.
Absolutely. And I think when we disagree with someone, it makes us want to know more. It makes us want to investigate why we have those differing opinions.
Totally.
Honestly, Uma and I are here literally based on just an academic approach to film criticism. We're not here for the popularity contest. We're here to just say like, look, we like this movie, we didn't like this. And a lot of our followers, a lot of the people who, follow us, I guess, I don't know, but they agree with us, but they appreciate our candor, I think. I think that's what's important.
Yeah.
Also, just as on a business side of it, a little peek behind the curtains here is all of our promotional partners know that we do not sell our reviews. If you wanted to do some research, you will see that we have both promoted a film and then said that it was a terrible movie. Again, both ways, we have never said not to go watch the film. If it's an absolutely terrible film, then we won't take that money. If there's no value there, I think then we will not do that film.
And we've actually done that before as well. And we won't name the movie because that's not nice. But there is a movie that we saw and we went, wow, this is so beyond bad that we can't even bring ourselves to take your money to even make an Instagram post talking about what it's about.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, thank you.
At Ziming094 asks, will Akira be the original or the remastered film?
So Akira is being screened as part of this year's Japanese Film Festival. And yes, it will be the remastered version. I believe that's the only version that gets screened in cinemas now anyway, I think. So yes, short answer, but I believe tickets will go on sale a week before the festival starts. So in KL, that would be on the 5th of September. That's next week. So you can start buying your tickets for Akira, Godzilla 1954, Godzilla -1, and a whole bunch of other great Japanese movies that the Japan Foundation are bringing in for the Japanese Film Festival. At Iman Bahare asks, what are your expectations for Prime Secret Level series? And hypothetically, if there were a second season, what other IPs would you like to see included? I mean, they've got Pac-Man, so the sky's the limit, I guess. So for those of you who don't know, there is a series coming out on Prime Video called Secret Level, where they will be telling, I'm assuming, these shorts based on famous big-time video games. Pac-Man, Warhammer, Mega Man, Unreal Tournament, Honor of Kings, Sifu, Dungeons & Dragons, The Outer Worlds, Exodus, a whole bunch of stuff, right? This is a very good question because I saw this announcement and I was like, in my head, the first thing that went through my mind was Red Dead Redemption. I want to see a cool thing with Red Dead. Another thing that went through my mind was Ghost, but I think Ghost of Tsushima is getting a movie. So probably not anything animated. And of course, Fallout, there's a series, so they probably won't cover it here. Although it would be nice to see some secondary Fallout stories take place here in an animated universe as well.
Your Red Dead Redemption thing? Red Dead Redemption Undead Nightmare.
What is that?
Red Dead Redemption, but with motherfucking zombies.
Wait, is that a thing?
It's a game, bro. I think it's a level
Holy
or
shit.
it's a DLC or something.
I completely missed that. Oh my god.
Yeah. It's a single player campaign that follows John Marston as he deals with the undead.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
But Iman Bahare is right. The sky is the limit. There are so many great video games, and not just story-based adventure video games, of which there are dozens that I would like to see adapted in this way, but also cool stories that could lie within the first-person shoot-'em-up genre, or heck, you could do a shot within the world of FIFA.
I don't know about the FIFA one, though.
Dude, if they can make a compelling narrative of you going around power washing things, I think it's possible for FIFA to pull something off.
Unfortunately for me, the first thought that crossed my mind was, could they do something with Football Manager? But that's just a bad idea. I don't know. I don't know if I want to see an animated Football Manager. I don't think there's much story there.
They made Draft Day exciting, so I think Football Manager is okay.
The one I was thinking about was No Man's Sky.
Oh, yes, because there's no story there now.
Which is the best part of that, right? Like, it's just this one lonesome astronaut, cosmonaut, traveler guy that's just planet to planet.
Also, Hades.
Oh, Hades is gonna be pretty cool. I mean, I guess if they're gonna do Sifu, I guess they could do Hades.
Yeah, same idea of just dying and regenerating over and over again, right? That could be cool.
At Alan Tan SL asks, what are your thoughts on the rumored season 4 of Ted Lasso? In my opinion, season 3 finale wrapped up the series perfectly with every character's arc ending in a heartwarming manner. Thus, season 4 feels like a desperate move by Apple TV Plus to revive its only show that has high viewership numbers.
I disagree with that last statement only because a lot of Apple TV does have pretty high viewership numbers. I think Presume Innocent was one of the most streamed things. I think Bad Monkey is doing very, very well. I think Ted Lasso captured the imagination of a global audience, unlike any other show, but also unlike any other show on any other streaming service over the last few years. I mean, the last time something had such global appeal was probably Tiger King on Netflix, where everyone was losing their collective shits over it, right? What's happened since then is actually that the streaming market has become so fragmented that even the best shows don't necessarily find a massive audience. Like if you take something like Fallout on Prime Video, phenomenal show, and yes, it got great critical acclaim, but yet again, it doesn't enjoy the kind of success that an early season of Stranger Things did because it was unique, it was new, it wasn't competing with 100 different shows. That said, I don't think it's a desperate move because I think if it was a desperate move, they would have renewed it almost immediately. Now, we still don't know if a season 4 is happening. All that's happened is that 3 of the actors who are on UK contracts have had their options renewed. And what that means is Warner Brothers Television, who makes it, keeps them locked in just in case they want to reboot the series or do another season or do something with it or a spin-off or whatever, right? The American actors whose contracts are under SAG-AFTRA, their options have actually lapsed. So right now, it's up to Warner Brothers Television to renegotiate with Jason Sudeikis and Phil Dunster, for example.
Is Phil Dunster under the SAG-AFTRA?
He's under SAG-AFTRA.
Wow.
It's up to Warner Television now to renegotiate those contracts and those options. We spoke to Bill Lawrence a month ago, and Bill Lawrence had said that any future endeavors involving Ted Lasso are going to be entirely up to Jason Sudeikis. He is the showrunner, he is the creator of the show, and I think it depends on whether or not he wants to uproot his life again, because he's got young children, and that was the reason he only wanted to do 3 seasons, and whether he wants to uproot his life again and start doing the series in England. If anything, I think season 4 might feature that women's team they were talking about at the end of season 3, and I think, if anything, Ted might be a cameo part as opposed to the main character in the series. They're doing that storyline on Wrexham anyway, in the real world, so...
That is a valid option because the 3 characters, or rather the 3 actors who've had their contracts renewed, are mostly on the executive side of the football club. So if they were to set up a women's team, you don't actually need to feature even someone like Roy Kent because he's the manager of the men's team. Ted Lasso has moved back to the US. Coach Beard has essentially gone to live in the wilds of the UK with his missus.
To be fair, though, we don't know when that sequence happens. It could be in the far future.
That's true. You're right. But the 3 actors who were re-upped are essentially executive level characters.
Correct.
So you never know. It could be the women's team. It could be them setting up a different business. I'm not against spinning it off. It's happened before in the past. I think people forget that Frasier, the character, was spun off Cheers, a completely different show, right? Cheers was set in a bar, about a bar in Boston with this group of residents at that bar, whereas Frasier is a completely different style of sitcom, and I think they both worked fantastically well. So there's nothing stopping Keely doing a different thing with Hannah Waddingham's character coming on board as a business partner or whatever, right? So there's nothing wrong with that.
If anything, I have faith in someone like Bill Lawrence, who's done Shrinking and Spin City and Scrubs and Ted Lasso.
Assuming he comes back for it.
And Bad Monkey. Yeah, assuming he comes back for it. But I think there's good pedigree there. And it feels like they're taking their time because they want to get it right, if they are in fact doing it. So I'm excited. I welcome the possibility.
These contracts get re-upped sometimes just as a safety.
A lot of the time, it's as a safety, right? Just like Andrew Garfield and Spider-Man.
Yeah.
He has a contract to continue playing Spider-Man. Whether it'll ever happen is a different story.
And that was signed after his second Spider-Man, if I'm not mistaken.
That brings us to the end of another exciting episode of Ask Us Anything. Thank you so much for your questions. Keep them coming in. We know there were a lot more questions, and we're going to get to some of them next week, or this episode would go on forever. So stay tuned for next week's episode of Ask Us Anything, where the spillover questions will feature. But for now, thank you so much for listening. You know how to reach out, Goggler MY, all of our social media feeds. You can also email us on podcast@goggler.my or send us a WhatsApp on the Goggler hotline 012 524 5208. We would also like to take this opportunity to bid a fond farewell to our intrepid intern Sue-Ann, who is leaving to pursue her studies in Nottingham in the UK. Sue-Ann, thank you so much for all of your help. We really appreciate it.
Uma and I are very unhappy about Sue-Ann leaving us.
Yes, very, very unhappy.
Heartbroken.
Heartbroken. This is the Goggler Podcast.